And yeah, we are good to start the session, friends. So, Python programming, again, I would be trying to internalize few things into your brains. I'll be repeating the things again and again and again, but not those kind of questions that you are asking, but the things that are important for you, like the features of Python. So if I talk about the features of the Python programming, then the first feature is it is open source. It is scalable. It is OS independent, that is portable, right? We call it as portable. Then it is interactive. That means you will be able to write the program line by line, right? You execute each line and see how the code is executing. It's not in a scripting mode. Okay. Pradeep voice is okay. Few people are not able to hear me, not sure. The voice is clear, right? Today, yeah, I'm home. So I'm connected with broadband, so it should be clear. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, yeah. Okay, just cross check your connections, friends.
You can
Who?
what doing what you are looking for other than this.
Okay, all right. Okay, interactive, open source, scalable, portable, interactive. Then it is also iterative. That means you can reuse the code again and again and again, right? So it has functional oriented capabilities. It has object oriented capabilities. It has modular programming capabilities, the machine level language. And good thing is it is a high level programming, which basically means it's like language, English like language, right? So interpretation will be very easy, right? You also call it as interpretable. It's, you can interpret, right? Human readable, basically. That's another feature we have. It has multi-threading capability. Multi-thread capability. Parallel processing can be achieved like this. What else am I missing here? Portable, I did mention. Scalable, I did mention. Anything that I'm forgetting, friends? Please do add. Please do add if I'm missing anything. All right. So these are all the capabilities that we have for Python programming. And to begin with, okay, one more very important point I forgot. General purpose programming. It is a general purpose programming. That means you can develop anything using Python programming. Okay, these are a bunch of benefits. You can keep reading on those on top of these things. Then we started to understand the graphical user interfaces that are available for Python. For data science community, we are focusing only on that. And the most popular ones are Spider and Jupyter notebooks, right? Jupyter notebook is what we were trying to do. And of course, we'll also be using Spider. The extension of Python files or the scripts would be .py. It can also be .pynb. Python notebooks. We call them as IPython notebooks. right? So these are few of the things that we have with respect to, I mean, with respect to the GUI interfaces. Otherwise, Python would have a command line interface, shell, CLI, we call it as command line interface. But these are the GUI options, and these options are provided by Anaconda, anaconda.com. For data scientists, this is what is preferred. But if you want to choose any other alternative option, you are most welcome to do that. You can try and do that, because underlying these graphical user interfaces, the code anyways gets executed by your Python engine itself, right? So you can experiment. All right. Then we started understanding about the data types. Right? This is something that we started with. We looked at integers, we looked at float, we looked at complex numbers, and then we looked at characters. These are the data types. Then we looked at operators. Very important concept, operators. And here we will have to look at assignment operator. This is basically your equal to symbol. And of course, we'll also try and have different types of assignments that you're doing, plus equal to, minus equal to, multiplied equal to, right? So those things can also be there here in assignment operator. Then another very important, the fundamental operator that we need to look at is arithmetic operator. Here we will be talking about plus, minus, multiplication, and in division specifically we had division. This is basically to get a floor value, that's integer value, and this is to get the remainder. Double star is nothing but power. You can either use this cap symbol or double star. This is nothing but power, x power y, like this. So these are arithmetic operators. Then we discussed about, yeah, keep adding, guys. We discussed about logical operators. We discussed about identity operators. We discussed about relational operators. So probably this and this is something that these two kind of operators is what you will be right, very, very frequently used. Relational or comparison, both are basically same, right? Relational operator or comparison operators. Logical operators are something that we will also use to verify, right? Then we also have identity and then membership operators. And then we also have bitwise operators that basically is something that we will not be using much. This bitwise is basically converting your data into bits, ones and zeros. Right? Whatever the number you have, it will convert that into bits and then you will be, right, doing the operations. The function is a format. You don't need to know much about this. This is all you can discuss. The most important things, as I said, somebody is painting. Okay, I'll just remove that. The most important operators that you will be using on a daily basis is assignment, arithmetic, and then relational operators. And right, you might also use logical operators. Identity operators and logical operators are similar, right? You can put all these three, membership, identity, and logical operators into one bracket, right? So these are the operators that we have looked at. These are capabilities of Python programming, and that's what we are trying to learn. And then we started looking at data structures, and we started with arrays, right? Of course, we'll have to start reading about it. Array basically is the data structure which is having multi-dimensional arrangement. That's the default abstraction of your data that we have, right? And in Python, the default data abstraction is, I mean, the lowest granular granularity of your data structures would be arranged in form of arrays. Now, arrays, we basically, when take a one-dimensional array, we get vectors. And vectors are, you can say, a data type or a data which can hold only a single data type. If you have integers, you will have only integers, right? But in order to define an array, we have to use a this special function called array to define that this is the data, that bunch of values that you're putting are arrays. So this function, right, will be available for Python or in Python programming in module. We call that as module, and this is nothing but a package. We'll discuss that, okay, in detail. If you're not familiar with the wordings, don't worry. So package or modules, you can imagine, are collection of functions, right? Code, Python codes, pre-written Python codes. So we are importing those pre-written functions. So array is basically a module which has multiple functions, and you are basically putting star for importing all the libraries, right? Or all the functions. Sorry, you can say all the functions will be imported. So that's your array basically. Next, we are basically putting this typecasting. I means integer. So this cell basically is doing 4 lines of code, or 3 lines of code rather. First is importing all the functionalities of this module, and within that, one of the functionality is array. So using that function, you are creating an array for these integer values. You are defining that these values are integers and storing that into a variable called array1. For x, in array1, print x. So you take this object, then iteratively capture each value of that object and print it. So here you can see the values are in row format, in a row arrangement, right? This for loop that we are executing here, the for command, is taking x as a variable and treats this as x first. So for this array 1, in this array 1, for x is 10 now, print 10. Then go to the next value, sequential, right? Sequential arrangement. So next go to 20, print it, 30, print it, 40, print it, 50, print it, and after that you don't have any. So you'll stop there. So that's a simple code which basically prints your array. We have seen that yesterday, right? So I'm importing array and then I'm executing this line to define the array. Here I'm showing the explorer. You can see that it is an array object of array module. When you create that, you get this array. But as I said, you cannot, right, really appreciate if you are just doing this. It prints everything. But you are interested only in these values, right? Hence, you are capturing that individual values and printing it here. When we discuss about the custom functions, those things, you will understand more about these loops and all that, right? When we touch base, you'll understand how do we execute, right, the data in Python's spider interface. In Jupyter, we don't have this problem. Okay, this is online Jupyter lab that I've created for you people. In Jupyter notebooks, right, you have the bunch written in one cell. When you're writing a loop, right, a function which is having multiple lines of code, all that code will be written in this one cell. And when you're executing, this Jupyter executes one cell at a time. That means all entire code, all the code which is there in that particular cell will get executed. But in Spider, you have to be careful when you're executing multiple lines of code. Now, it is an interactive programming language, right? So line by line, you can execute it. But when you have continuation of the code like this, for example, for loop, multiple lines of code are there, right? Now, I can execute individual lines like this. Here also, I can execute only this line. But when you execute this one line, see what happens. It is throwing an error, exception, syntax error. That is because Python understands that there are a bunch of lines that you need to execute, and it is not the end of that particular function. I mean, that particular command. There's more to it. Right? It is clearly explaining that there is more to this particular code. Whenever you see this kind of colon, you should understand that it is a loop. Or if you see this small arrow button here, right? In Spider, if you see this small, that arrow button there, that means there are multiple lines of code, right, embedded into this, right? So that is something you have to be carefully observing. And when you want to execute such multiple lines of codes like this, right? See, if I press on that arrow, it is minimizing, expanding. So when you see these kind of things, select entire, right, set of those lines of code and then execute. Only then the, right, Python would understand that the syntax is proper and it completes the execution. Otherwise, it does not execute. Okay. All right. Next, this is about the array definition. And as I shown you the help command, you can do this help of your module, and you get the documentation. Right? A big set of documentation is provided. In Spider also, you can just press that help command here in the console. Help of array, and you get the documentation. Right? Yeah. All right. All right. Next, once you have this vector, one dimensional array is treated as a vector, right? So let us assume that we are working with vectors here. So the first operations, I mean the basic operations that we are doing on your one dimensional array or a vector are insert, deletion, updation. Okay, basic three operations we try to do. So for insert, we will use insert function. For deleting, we use remove function. And for updating, you don't have to mention anything. You just have to mention the index there. So let us execute this. I already have array, right? So very simple commands. You have to say insert function here. Oops. So I'm going to do insert, right? But when I do insert here, if I give like this and execute it, you can see it says that there is a syntax error, type error. That's because if I click here, insert basically takes two values, mandatorily two values, minimum two values. The first value I is index and then v is value. But here I've just removed that index and comma symbol, right? So when you're passing only one value, it is throwing error. It says insert takes exactly two arguments, but you have given only one, right? So you basically have to give two values. Now this I is index. Okay. So if I execute this, what will happen, friends? If I say my array dot insert, okay, let me type that. Array1 dot insert. Now you can see that it's a function. I'm getting I and V. So for V, I'm putting any value, let's say 60. But for I have to mention the index, right? I is nothing but index. So what do you think will happen when I put 1 here? Where would my value get added?
Uh, before 20.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's correct. So here you have to note a point. Like many other programming languages, if you are coming from programming background, the index in Python starts from 0. So here you have values, right? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So 10 is 0, 20 is 1, 30 is 2, 3 and 4. This is your index, right? So when you have this and you're mentioning 1, then you're specifying that I have 0 fine, but at this index position I want to have 60. So what is happening to the rest of the values? They are getting incremented. So you'll get index 5. You're adding one thing in between, right? So you get 10, 60, then 20, 30, 40, 50. If I want to, let's say, see the output of any specific content, you don't have to type everything. Just like how we have seen how multiple lines can be executed, similarly, only partial part of one line can also be executed in Spider. So these are the properties of or capabilities of Spider, not Jupyter. So here, if when I select only array1 and execute, it executes only that part. And you can see 10, 60, 20, 30, 40. Right? So that's your insert function. You can change this. You can put that index at any position of your data, and it will insert the value at that particular point. If you execute this, it will print that value as 10, 60, 20, 40, 30. This is insert function. Now, we've also see remove function or delete function. So for that, we have array dot remove. You can see when I'm typing in Spider, it shows that help. For remove function, you don't need index. It's not mandatory. You can just give value. So I'll put 60 here. So when I do that, automatically it is removing that one value. 60 value is removed. Right? You can execute this again. And you can see that 60 is gone. Now, if I have to execute this in Jupyter notebooks, you see the bunch of lines of codes that I'm writing here. All of them are in single cell. So all of them will get executed at one go. You can choose to write each line separately. Okay, that's your choice. You can write that. Say, for example, here I'm adding a line. Sorry, here. Let me add this line, and I will cut this part and put it here. When I execute this now, it will not print, but it is executing. And when I execute this line, it will print the output. Right? So this way we can execute insert. Then for deletion, as I said, it takes only one value as is, and you can run this. And it deletes this value. Now update function. You're trying to do update function. Now in update function, I'm not using any external function, any additional functions. I'm just using square brackets here. So I'll say array 1, put square brackets, and then give a value, index value. So you have index values from 0 till 4. So I'm saying 5 is equal to 60. I'll execute this. And what does this array say? What is it saying? Index error. Why is it saying index error? Your array1 object is defined already. Okay, it's already fixed, defined. And it has values from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? These indexes are already defined. Now, if I say index 5, is that available here? No, right? Hence, it is not able to get that. And index is always sequential number. So it says out of range. It's sequential, right? So it is saying out of my range. If you say index of 4 here, what would happen? Oh God, okay. Raining heavily.
Yeah, the number would be inserted before
Insert.
the fourth index.
No, 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 no. It is not inserting, but yes, Ankit, you are correct. It is replacing. It replaces value. So if I execute array1 alone, you can see 50 is not there, but 60 is there now. So it is replace. You're talking about update function. It's a replacement is what happens. Right? So these are the bunch of commands that you can run on your 1D array, that is your vectors. I'll say update, or I should say replace. It's going to replace your values. All right. So this is about one-dimensional array. That's your vectors. Now we have two-dimensional arrays. When I say two-dimensional arrays, it will basically have x-axis, y-axis. You can imagine like this. Two
Sharath, can
dimensions.
we? Hello.
Yep.
Yeah, Sharath, can you use pop here? Pop function.
No.
Okay,
Pop, yes,
thank
you can do that. Yeah.
You can
We'll
do
look
it,
into
right?
those pop functions also. Yeah, yeah, we'll look into those functions. Please hold
Okay,
on.
okay.
We'll,
Thank you.
we'll do that on the list. Yeah, yeah. All right. So when I say two-dimensional array, it basically has X and Y values, or you can say rows and columns, right? Whenever you talk about a two-dimensional data concept, then you are going to basically say that it is in a matrix format. So your two-dimensional array can be compared with matrix, right? Yeah. Okay, I think a lot of questions are there. People are messaging. Let me see. Showing error when I typed from array input star. What is the error, Naveen? Could you just ping that error as well? Can we assign an index value in delete function? In arrays, there is another function that you have to use, which is called as iLocation. If you have to refer to the index, we'll look into that. I'll cover that part. I'm getting an error. Ajit, you have tried, I think, when you're creating array, you might have created the objects using this regular brackets. That's the reason why you're getting that error. You have to basically put square brackets. I think, yeah, those are the questions that I have. Will the libraries be same? Yeah, it will be same. I'm talking about only interface. Chocolate would be remaining same. The wrapper changes. Is this for like for loop? What about increment and condition? What is that? Is this for like or loop? Like for loop? Yeah, it is a for loop, right? It is automatically taking the incremental value, Gitanjali, because the values are indexed, right? It is indexed. Indexed means what? 0, 1, 2, 3. So it automatically takes that. Naveen is unable to detect undefined names. Spyflix E. Ooh. That's strange. Naveen, are you using standalone instance or online cloud-based instances, cloud-based interface? Still getting string indices must be integers, getting the error while creating array. Tuple object has no. Again, Ajit, I'm saying you are creating array using tuple values. Tuples are not iteratable. They are not mutable. You have to create array using list options. We'll learn that difference between what does list means, what does tuple means, what does set means, what does dictionary means. If you're using this assignment, if you're creating array here using a regular brackets, then it will say the errors. It is a tuple. You have to create the array using square brackets. Try this square brackets. It should work. Try that, and if it is not working, then let me know. Square brackets have to be there. If you want index 2 or anything, generally in for loop, the syntax. Gitanjali, that's what I'm saying, right? It is indexed values. That means it automatically increments itself. I have used square brackets only. You have used square brackets, but you're getting that tuple value. There should be some error. Try this. Oh, sorry, Pradeep. Did you try exactly this? Okay, hold on, friends. You're jumping the gun ahead. There are a lot of things that you're asking which are not covered. So let me first solve Ajit's questions because he has issue. So let's look into that. We There are so many sessions, so many content that we need to cover. Don't worry on your questions. Hold on. When we discuss that aspect, we will discuss. You can ask your relevant questions at that point of time. No, index in array, I'm saying it's not required, not mandatory, right? You can see the syntax and then try. Ajit, is it working now? Did you try the code that I have shared? Is it working now? Okay, trying, right? Yeah, trying. If it is working, then I would also ask you to check what is the difference between your code and this code. There might be small changes. Yeah, this is a warning message. Okay, in the meantime, let me also talk about these triangles that you're seeing. These triangles, right? Your spider interface, the GUI option that you have, has a lot of user-friendly, right, features. One such feature is it helps you streamline, optimize your code. Like it is showing syntax errors, right? Code errors. If there are errors, then there will be a red color circle like this. If it is a warning, then it will show you this triangle. And when you hover your mouse on that, it gives you a message. Array may be undefined or defined from star imports array. That means you're importing a lot of things is what it's saying. You can safely ignore these warning messages if they are, of course, irrelevant. But when you're getting errors, red color symbol, say for example, yeah, look at this. This red color box, that circle that you're seeing, is a code error, syntax error, expected an indented block, but it is not finding that. So when you have for loop, the follow up, right, after your colon, the value should have the indentation. Indentation is another very important thing in Python. Indentation. It's basically talking about the style, the format of code. When you have these loops, right, it has to use these spaces appropriately. We generally go with the tab option. Okay, we generally use a tab option, but when you're typing your code, right, I mean, if you're editing any existing code, then you will have to adjust all that. But you are so lucky people, right, that these interfaces, the graphical user interfaces that we are using, that we are seeing right now, has matured so much that you have, right, all automated. These kind of issues are all automated. I just type enter when I put colon, then my mouse cursor is automatically taken to that particular position where I need to write the code. Say for example, I'm writing this, okay? So I have for loop, I typed this, I'm saying array 1 and put a colon. Once I put colon, that means Python, this particular interface understands that you're continuing your code. See, when I put enter, it's directly taking me to that location where I have to type my code. In olden days, right, not too old, probably I should say around 6 months back, I don't exactly remember, but the previous versions of Spider were pathetic. You should have to manually right, make sure that all those indentations, everything is taken care. So you are lucky from that perspective. Right, now once you have the code, you can also see this arrow symbol, right? This arrow symbol is basically saying that, hey, these are bunch of programs which are, right, which should be executed as one code, one set of code. So these are all user friendly features which are brought in into Spider. When you're using Jupyter, you don't have to worry. Those things are right, really does not make much difference because you're writing your bunch of code in one cell. So one cell will execute at a time. Right. Yeah, Ajit, update. Is it working? Yeah. So what is the difference in your code and this line that I have shared? There should be some issue where you are not putting the brackets or you're putting the square instead of square brackets you have mentioned something else. What is the difference? I want you to identify that. All right, so please be on that. Can index value, yeah, we can play around with indexes, Pradeep. We'll look into that. Yeah, what is that issue? That's something that I wanted you to highlight, Ajit, so that others also come to know. You might want to ping your code and then right let others also see what is the difference. All right, so let's now discuss about the 2D arrays. As I said, 2D arrays can be treated as matrix. Of course, in Python, there is a predefined proper way to handle matrices. There are functions to define and work with matrices. But when you have arrays and if you specifically have two dimensions only, then you have these bunch of functions that you can work with. It's like one dimensional array concepts only. But here you have a function called, okay, we'll look into that. When we deal with matrix, I'll talk about that. So here you're just putting double square brackets, right? So let me execute this. I don't want to type everything. Let me copy paste. I prefer to execute in Spider because I can execute line by line. It doesn't mean that this is different, Jupyter is different. No. Same code I'm copying and pasting. Explaining things would become much easier in Spider. That's the reason why I'm going there. Right. So again, this is not required because I've already imported. I'm defining a two-dimensional array. Right? I'm putting these double square brackets to start off. I mean, this is first square bracket, and within my square brackets, I'm putting these objects. So you can see this becomes one specific object. Okay, somebody started video. Please be cautious. Why are you starting your videos? If you want to start the videos, I would be very glad. Today I don't have any problem. Please initialize your videos cameras, but make sure right you are in proper attire and you don't want to scare others. All right. So I was trying to explain this. So I'm putting the square brackets. Okay. Then I'm putting one object. Within this, this is one object, comma, another object, comma, another object, comma, another object. So I've put four different objects here. Right? So this becomes one dimension and the content within this object becomes another dimension. Right? So this becomes a two-dimensional array. Okay? You can see T is like this. Okay? It's a two-dimensional array. Now I want to check what is the value which is there in position, let's say 3. What would I get if I say T of 3? What value would I get here, friends, if I execute this? Index, index, index. There's so many different answers. Index starts from 0. And I said this is one object, this is one object, this is one object, right? Exactly. So I'm referring to the last object. T of 3 will give me this option. 12, 15, 8, 6. Now, if I want to refer to a single value, then how do I do it? I put T and then I put square bracket and square bracket. So let's say I want to refer to 6, this 6. So what should be the value in my first square bracket and second square bracket? If I want to show the 6. Yeah, friends. Very good. So if I do T1, then I'm going to get 15, 16, 15, 6 and 10. And within that, I want to refer to the second object. So it would give me the value 6. Right? So I'm individually line by line I'm executing here, whereas here I will execute as a single cell. So T of 0 will print 11, 12, 5, 2. T of 1, 2 will print 10 for me, this value. Right? So this is how you access the values of a two-dimensional array. Individual value if you want to access, then remember you have to put square and square brackets twice. First square bracket is talking about this object. Second square bracket is talking about the value within that object. Then we have similar commands that we have seen there, right? Insert, update, and delete. Now here, we are using insert function, right? Whereas here we did what? Insert index value. Remember, we are dealing with arrays only, but here you have a single dimensional array, whereas here you have two-dimensional array, right? So I'm inserting here, but you have to remember when you're inserting in a two-dimensional array, the insert function would not be able to give you an option to insert individual values. It will allow you to update objects, individual objects, and that object is a list of values. And I'm inserting it in a position 2. That is third position. Index is 2, position is 3. 0, 1, 2. If you see T alone, you can see that. Now I have 5 values, 0 to 4. And at index 2, I have this new entry added. Right? So this is inserting. Now you can also do updation. Now updation here is a little different. Let me copy paste the code. Okay, fine. Let me do this. Fine. Okay, there are hints here. So let me remove this. So I'll say T of, let's say 2, and I'm putting a value here. I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4. I execute this. So what happens here if I say T? What happens if I say T here?
Index 2 is replaced.
executed this, and if you see T, look at this. The previous value which you have updated is getting replaced. We have seen this in the one-dimensional case as well. Same thing, as I said. Now, if you want to update any single cell, then this is what you have to do. T of double square. So I'm saying 1 comma 1, and let's say I'm changing this to 16. If I, yeah, somebody is not on mute. Please be on mute. Yeah. So when I do T here, I'm pointing to this particular location and then assigning a value 16 to that. So your 6 is getting replaced with 16. Okay, this is replace. Then we have remove function. Now, unlike your remove function, which is there for one-dimensional data, one-dimensional array, we'll not use that. We will use delete option here, right? DEL is what we are using, delete. So I'll say remove or delete. I'll say T, or you can write it in two ways. You can say till T dot delete of values. What is the value I want to delete? Let's say 2. This is syntax error. What is the syntax error? How do I write this? Syntax. Remembering the syntax is a big problem. Okay, first let me try this. T of, let's say 2. If I do this, this is gone. So you can say T here. That value that you have had, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, that will be gone. But another syntax, I forgot syntax. T dot del of 2. Will this work? No, this is a syntax error. Invalid syntax. T dot delete will remove the entire T. I forgot. Will this work? No, this is also not work. Okay, fine. When I recollect, I'll explain that. So this is one syntax which is basically used for removing the content from your two-dimensional array. All right. So we are basically working with array friends here. For one-dimensional array and two-dimensional array. For one-dimensional array, we treat it as a vector. For two-dimensional array, we treat it as a matrix. But still, it is an array, okay? And the common functionalities are inserting, right? Then updating. These are the two common ways to do it. Then we have delete and remove. These are two different things that you have. Okay, and for a two-dimensional array, you have to mention 2 square brackets if you have to refer to a single specific value. Okay, so that's basically how you are going to remove content from a two-dimensional array. All right. Next, we will talk about special case of array, that is matrix directly. Two-dimensional arrays are being handled now. So we are going to treat that as an array only. But when you have a matrix, it is a special case of two-dimensional array where you are having strict rows and columns format, right? And it will stick to that dimension. Okay, strictly data elements will have same size. Okay, That's basically your matrix. So for example, you're talking about a matrix. Then let's say you have 3 elements. Then all the rows will have to have 3 elements. That value is fixed. You cannot have 2 elements here, 3 elements here, right? That's not possible. So matrix is a two-dimensional array which has fixed size. Okay, and two-dimensional array will always have rows and columns. Okay, that's another case that you need to remember.
Sir, then
Now, how do I work with matrices?
even the T also,
Yeah.
the above example just before matrix. So can it have different elements? Say, for example, the first index can have 4 objects, and second
I
index
think you
have
have not
3.
observed that. You have not observed that. How many objects are there here?
Wow, okay, sir. Okay.
3, right? Here you have 4.
Okay, sir.
So yes, you can have. So it's just matrix is different from 2D dimensional array.
Sure. Thank you.
But we are saying, yeah, two-dimensional array can be a matrix, but matrix cannot be a two-dimensional array. Similarly, we talked about vectors also, if you remember. Right? So yeah, keep this point in mind. Your matrix will have fixed dimensions. So you cannot always treat a two-dimensional array as a matrix. All right. So let's take a break and then we will start discussing about matrices. Okay? Matrix will be continued after the break. Any questions before I proceed for the break? Let me take your questions. Let me see. Will this remove entire row or column? There's no row or column here, Geetanjali. We are talking about two-dimensional array, but we're not talking about row and column. That is not possible, as I said. Delete.
Sir,
You can try and delete using. Yeah.
okay, sir, can I ask you one question apart from this topic?
If it is relevant, I'll answer. Yeah, please.
Okay, sir. Actually, sir, we have learned about the hierarchical clustering. So I was doing the program of hierarchical clustering, and I download the data from data.world. Dataset was utilities.csv, from where I did this dendrogram. Sir, okay, sir. Now I just wanted to ask you, when we infer something from dendrogram or from any output, then what points should be in our mind that we need to check these points while inferring something?
Okay,
Actually,
entirely
sir,
out of context question, Upendra.
yes, sir. Actually, I'm facing very problem
Completely, yeah.
whenever I do assignments, then always I solve entire thing. But when they say what you infer from this, then I feel blank.
So see, you have undergone crisp DM, right? We are taking a detour, friends,
Yeah,
because
sir.
Upendra's
Can I
question.
share a screen,
Yeah.
sir? Can I
No,
share a
not
screen, sir?
required. Not required.
Okay.
Not required, Upendra.
Yes, sir.
When you learned crisp DM,
Yes, sir.
what is the first step?
Sir, business objective and constraint. Business problem
Exactly.
statement. Yes, sir.
So you understood your business problems.
Yes, sir.
You're articulating, you're framing business challenges,
Yes, sir.
and you're getting data. Okay, let's
Yes,
not
sir.
worry about these things. You're getting data and you're working with that data.
Yes, sir.
And what do you do with respect to the data when you say working on the data or when you say churn the data? You're ultimately trying to find out some hidden patterns in the data. Patterns are, you can also call it as anomalies, variations. Now, when you look at the data set for your question now, when you look at the data set, you have fields, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you understand what these fields are talking about?
Yeah.
So if you are understanding these fields, then combination of these fields is what you're going to get in clustering, right? The clustered results basically will have the same fields. The columns will be same. But you are getting rows which are similar.
Hmm.
This is one set of cluster. This is one cluster. Same set of columns would be there. Another set of records would be there. This will be one cluster. Now, when you look into this clustered result, what characteristics can this data speak? What characteristics they can display? When I say characteristics, I'm talking about the business. Can you define something which is very relevant for your business scenarios? Inferences means that. So think from business point. Think from business point of things, right?
Okay, sir.
Coding is very easy. Don't worry. You don't worry
Actually,
about
sir,
coding.
so yes, sir, I have done
Okay.
coding and I have drawn the dendrogram while using R. But this,
That's what I'm saying.
yes,
No,
sir.
Upendra.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what I'm saying. See, articulating business problems, mapping the data into your business problems is important. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now, when you say articulate, when I'm saying articulate, you're trying to map the data with business problems and saying that, okay, I found this is the pattern. Probably there is a solution that you can implement. So you have to think from business side of, right, things. And your solution might be different because your understanding for that business would be different. Your approach might be different. My approach might be different. If you talk about coding, coding will be same. You download the code. We have given you the code. You just use those functions and write the coding. Coding is not important, guys. Articulating, framing, mapping the solution to your data and the data to your business is important.
So, sir, actually,
Yeah.
my dendrogram is ready. Yeah. For example, can you infer something from after seeing that dendrogram? If you allow me, then I can share my screen.
No, that is an assignment.
No,
Is
no,
it an
sir.
assignment?
No, sir. This is not an assignment. Actually, I was doing from my own.
Okay, but we will discuss that after the session.
Okay, sir.
Not now.
Okay, sir.
We
Okay, sir.
are basically here connecting for Python, right? So we'll
Yes,
discuss
sir.
that later.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Oh,
Thank you,
yeah,
sir.
sure. Sure. Pawan, I'm not going to discuss any questions which are pertaining to assignments. You have to figure out. I can explain you the concepts, but not assignment questions.
Okay, sir. That was not related with. That is not the question of the assignment.
Yeah. That's the reason I'm explaining.
Okay, sir.
Otherwise, I would not have explained.
Okay, sir. After session,
Okay, yeah.
I'll discuss you. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sure. For large data set, then yeah, of course, Vipul, it doesn't make sense, right? Your screen is very small, and if you want to fit in entire data into the small screen, it would not be appropriate. It doesn't work. Yeah, that's absolute. All right, let's take a break, guys. It's 9:12 now. We'll come back in 9:20. Okay, 8 minutes break. Let's connect back at 8:20. Okay, let's see. We have a few questions. Regarding delete function, one day. No, it will remove the value which is in the second position, Kumar. And it's not a regular bracket, it's a square bracket that you have to mention there. For every model, we need to process data differently for same processing will work. What do you mean by what do you mean by that, Madhav? I didn't understand. For every model, we need to process data differently, or same processing will work. Same pre-processing will work. Okay. It depends on what kind of problems you have in the data, right? Pre-processing is basically you're you're preparing your data for modeling, right? Now, if your data has certain things missing or certain things which are given irrelevant, right? Unnecessarily irrelevant data is there, then you are going to remove that. So the concept of pre-processing is universal, but within that pre-processing, what steps you perform, that depends on the data. For example, in few cases, imputation might be required. For few data sets, imputation is not required. Right? So those steps would vary. All right. Let's resume the discussion with respect to matrix. So before the break, we have seen one-dimensional array and two-dimensional arrays. And we have seen insert, delete, update, and accessing the data points, right? These are the four things that we performed on one-dimensional array and two-dimensional array. Now, the difference between a two-dimensional array, which can be treated as a matrix, and a pure matrix is that here the dimensions of the objects may vary, whereas in a matrix, the dimensions will be fixed. It will not vary. When I say dimensions, the length of the values will remain same. So we are dealing with the array function itself here. In this particular example, I'm defining an array, and I'm having values, I'm having strings and integers, right? And I'm creating this array. Now it is a two-dimensional array that I've created here, but I'm reshaping that. I'm using a function called reshape. When you do this reshape, you will see the difference, that it is getting arranged in a rows and column format for you. Right, so let us create this. You can take any data. I'm using the same data. So here I'm talking about matrix, and I'm creating a matrix. Right, let's say this is array. Now, as I said, this is a two-dimensional array. Okay, I have to execute the entire set of lines together. There is some special character somewhere. Where did I have? See, this is the indentation problem. There might be some special character somewhere, and it is troubling us. Still that's throwing error. Why? Why? Yeah, see, it's working so well, nicely here. Okay. This is also okay, fine. Where is the error coming up? Where is the error coming up? It's not even showing any error. Could be in this case. Because I copy pasted from there, could be some special characters somewhere it has captured. If it works fine, otherwise I'll simply remove this and I'll create another simple array. Time waste. Eating up our time. Okay, fine. Let me remove everything. Array of I'll say Sharat and let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll say 360 digit NG, comma, let's say 8, 9, 0. And I need to have one more value. So it's a 7. Same length, right? So I'll put a square bracket here, I'll put a square bracket here, and then I'll put a square bracket here. All right. So let's see. Oh, what is the error? Why is this error coming up? Okay, let us remove the characters and deal with this.
I think you have to add in that numpy.
Not required. Numpy.
Sharath, actually, here the array is like in array we can only process like similar elements, right? We can't process different data types. Like string is a different data type, and numeric is a different data type.
The same code is working here. The same code is working here. It's not that problem. It is the syntax problem. Somewhere special characters or something are recorded. That's the issue. Otherwise, it should work.
For me, locally, after I did the from numpy import, the error went away.
Okay. I think we are taking this import function and then execute it. Yeah. So this array is basically pulled out from numpy, right, object. So this array function and that array function are basically right, a little different. But it should work actually. I'm not sure why it is throwing error. Anyways, I'll troubleshoot that later and I'll give you an update on why it is not working there. So here I have array created. It's working now. And we will be using a function called as reshape. Okay, so I will say m is equals to a dot reshape, and then we'll have to give dimensions, right? So 5 comma 7 or 7 comma 5, sorry. Always remember for your array, matrix, the dimension would be rows by columns. So in this particular example, I am having 7 rows. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? So 7 rows. And then the values, the columns that I have are 5 columns. So that is the dimension we are defining here. So we are reshaping that particular 2-dimensional array into a matrix, right? So here I'll have 2 by how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 by 5, right? So this is the syntax that we need to pass. Reshape. And did I? Okay, I said a dot. I'm not sure if it works. It should work if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And if you see M now, it is going to give you a matrix, right? It is converting itself into a two-dimensional matrix like this. Okay, if I want to see the syntax, you can basically remove this. And why is it not showing the syntax? Yeah, now it is showing the syntax. So reshape, okay, this is the syntax, guys, my bad. So that is doing a different syntax. This is a different syntax. See, Python has this challenge. You have to remember so many different syntaxes. Okay, so reshape is a function which is converting or giving a shape to your data or array, gives a new shape to an array. And that shape you are defining here as rows comma columns. If I do this, it is going to print like this. So either that or this, both are giving you the same result ultimately. But I'm not sure why it was not showing the syntax when I said a dot reshape. It should show actually. Okay, so these are the two ways that you are defining shape to your two-dimensional arrays. All right. Reshape may be undefined. Why is it not defined? I've imported, right? Okay, fine. It says it is star, it is not able to read, but yeah, that's okay. You can ignore that warning message.
But
So you are define
here index is total is 4 only, no sir, for both Sharath and 360 digit 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 only, right? So 5 we are giving 2, 5.
okay. This is one value. 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 So what is the length here?
0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4.
Total.
Length is 5.
How is it 4?
Starting
0,
from 0.
1, 2,
Index.
3, 4, right?
Index value, I mean.
Index is 4, but total, what is the dimension, size? 5, right? That's what I'm defining here. Rows by columns. How many rows will I be arranging? Sharath and 360. This is one row. This is another row, right? So 2 by 5. That's the length I'm defining here. Dimension is 2 by 5.
Okay.
Just one question. When you look
Even
at
if you,
A and
even if you give 1 by 5, it will be the same, no?
1 by 5. Here you want to give 1 by 5. But see, if you say 1 by 5, you cannot basically, I mean, it's cannot take that shape, right? How can it take that shape? You can see here. It says, how can you change that? Because your content is something which cannot be converted into 1 by 5.
Sharath,
You're saying one row, 5 columns. That's
Okay.
not possible.
Sharath, one question here. So when you see A and when you see M, both look very similar. I don't see what is reshaped. Could you just go above in the thing? I'm not able to find the difference that has happened after reshaping.
Yeah.
There's no difference. There's no difference.
Okay.
It's just a proper way to define your matrix. What is the difference between a two-dimensional array and a matrix?
Yeah, matrix has a similar number of data items, same number of data items.
Yes. Now, when I do reshape here for my this array, what does it say? Cannot reshape. Why I cannot reshape? Because my two-dimensional array that I have has in this particular okay, please be on mute. Yeah, in this first somebody is not on mute. Please be on mute. Okay, yeah. So in this particular two-dimensional array, the length of this particular object is how much? 1, 2, 3, 4. Length is 4. Whereas here the length is 5. This array is a valid two-dimensional array. Okay. But I cannot convert that into a matrix. I cannot give a shape to it. So this reshape function is used to shape your content. If you have same size, only then you can do it. So it becomes a matrix in that case. Here it cannot be a matrix. That's the difference.
Okay.
Yeah. If I do 4 here, now it works. I will be able to reshape it. Same thing, there is no difference. But it has fixed length, so it can be reshaped, and you are going to call that as a matrix.
So any specific, use of this reshape? Nothing, right? From business, I mean, from program perspective.
You're giving a confined shape. When you say reshape, you're basically giving a fixed dimension to it.
That is just output that we
Arrays
see,
can be
but
adjusted.
internally when we define the array itself, it will be automatically assigned in that matrix format. So just we want to see that shape, we are giving reshape like that, right? Otherwise not any specific thing.
You're not seeing the shape. Shape for visualizing it is same, right? When you print it, the values are same, right? You're seeing the same dimension, same content. Internally it is different. It is not for showing the content.
Okay.
Arrays can be inserted with the values. You can change the size of array.
So
For
we are
matrix, once you say reshape, the values cannot be updated or sorry, inserted. You can only update the values of your row. So I can change 1 to 5, but I cannot say I want another value in between this. In array, you can do that. In matrix, you cannot do that because your dimensions are fixed.
we are
That's the
finalizing the
difference.
matrix. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. In order to access the values, you're using the same syntax as your two-dimensional array, because matrix is nothing but a two-dimensional array, right? So you're using the same syntax. Okay. If you say m square bracket and say 1, then you're going to get what? This entire object. This is at index 0. This is at index 1. Sorry. So you get this 360 content, this second object. If you want any specific value, then you're going to put double square brackets like this, one after the other, right? And you're going to say 4. So this is going to give you the result as 0, which is this part. So same thing, just like two-dimensional array, right? Now look at this. I'm going to copy this and make edits. I don't want to type so much thing. Yeah. Okay, matrix append. I'm doing this. I'll say, okay, average. And yeah. So see what is happening here. I'm saying append. Append is a function that I'm using. And when I do this, what does this do? What do you think it is going to do here? Anyone?
Add.
Insert at a large
You
position.
can see that append, argument, values, and access. 3 different options are given there. Argument, that's basically these are the 3 different arguments that you have. So it says array, values, and access. ARR is nothing but arrays, right? So access here will basically mean rows or columns. rows will take the value 0, columns will take the value 1. So this axis 0 means rows. So you're going to add this content as a new row. So you have one first row, which is at index 0, second row, which is at the index 1. When you say axis is equals to 0, you get this added here as a third row. Okay, let me add this. So now if you see mr, m underscore r, it's appended with a new row. Right?
So
You're
access
getting new row.
1, if I give, it will throw some error, sir. 1 or 2 in that case. Say
Now
if
we
you-
are looking into that. Hold on. We're looking into that. Just hold on.
Okay, sir.
So let me first complete this. Yeah. Okay. So my initial matrix was of dimension 2, 5. When I added this new row, I'm getting 3 by 5 matrix. Okay. Now you're saying that fine, you have one row inserted, one row appended. Append, always remember, will get at the end, added at the end. Okay, that's the default. Append means at the end. How about adding a column? Row you added, fine, access 0. Now if you want to add column, then how do I do that? If I simply change this 0 to 1, it will not work out. Okay. So let me show you. If I change this 0 to 1, it will not work out. It will throw error. Okay, because when you are defining your array, remember the two-dimensional array, always these are taken as rows. The content in the rows are your, in those objects are your columns. And how do you refer to the single value inside the object? You generally put double square brackets, right? Isn't it? That's how we refer to a single value here. So when you want to append anything into columns, then we need to use this particular syntax. Square brackets have to be mentioned. Yeah. Look at this. So I'm saying insert each value, right, in this particular position. This 5 basically is talking about fifth column. Insert can basically help you bring in a new column altogether, right? So at the fifth position, that is at the sixth position, in fact, index is 5, at the sixth position you want to add this. So if you look at your M, you just execute M. So you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So fifth position, it will add these values. But here I don't have so many. I'll remove these columns. I don't require all that. I'm just adding this. Because I have how many? Only 2 columns, right? So I'll add 1 and 2. That's it. So 1 will get added here, 2 will get added here. So that square brackets have to be mentioned properly. So if I say M underscore C, you will see that 1 is added here at the end, 2 is added at the end. So this is like insert function that you are doing, but when you're doing insert function, make sure the length of each row will remain constant. So you have to add to all the rows that you have. Right? You have to add value into a column like this for all the rows so that the length of each row remains same.
So you mean append will go with row and the insert will go for column functions.
Yes.
But we already did a reshape for this MR, right, sir? So we already finalized what should be the
Yes.
matrix structure. We already finalized. So now we are trying to insert our append by modifying that structure of the matrix. So it will allow that one.
It is allowing, right? So I think you did not understand what does that reshape actually doing. If I have this and this of different dimension, different length, then it will not work out. Not work out. Reshape is basically evaluating that this row and this row are of same size.
Okay, sure.
So it is basically saying it's a matrix.
Sure, sir.
If it is 10 and 10, fine. Right? You can change that to 15 also. 15 by, I mean, your dimension would become 15
Sure.
in that case.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Okay, now task for you all is, can I use append to add a value into a column? Similarly, can I try insert and get a value into row? Because if you see the syntax here, it says access equals to none. So that basically means it has an option, right? 1 and 0 it can do. So try out, experiment, and tell me what you are getting. Append and insert. Just experiment. I don't know the result. You just might want to explore and tell me. All right. So that's inserting or adding data to your existing matrix. You have append and insert functions. Then how do you delete? We have delete function here. Delete. Okay, let me use this delete function. This is to delete the values. So I'll say M1 here. I'm not changing. I'm creating a new matrix. I don't want to use the same matrix. So I'm simply using this delete function to delete from a matrix. Delete array object access. Right? So just do this. And deprecation warning is also there. Okay. Deprecation basically means in future this particular support to the function will not be there. The development on that particular function is stopped. That's what deprecation means. For existing it works, but any further enhancements will not happen. Right? Yeah. So when I did this, what would be my M1 matrix? 0 means access, right? This is the object. So what happens when I do delete?
The appended one will get lost.
I'm using M. I'm not using M underscore C or M underscore R. I'm still using M. So this is my matrix.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So this is, let me execute it. This is my M. And when I do delete M square bracket 2 comma 0, what do you think will happen?
Nothing will happen.
Nothing will happen.
Because we are giving index only, right? Here.
Okay. Okay. If I change this to 0, then?
Sharat, that row will get.
It will delete the inserted value, last inserted value.
Okay, good. Very good. So it is deleting the entire row. Access is equals to 0. Right? Access is equals to 0. Now, how about deleting column?
We have to give it in 2D form.
So I'll say M2 is equal
2D
to
format 0, 1 like that.
Okay, if I say 1, 1, what happens? What do you think will happen now?
Sir, it will delete the value at the index 1 of the column. Sorry, column 1 value will be deleted.
Exactly. You're talking about deleting the entire stuff. So this is your original matrix. Second cell has 1 and 7. The content which is there in the second cell, that is index 1, is deleted. Because it is a matrix, remember, it has a fixed index for rows and columns. So this is second column, right? So you are deleting the entire column. Right? Yeah. All right. So this is about matrix. Do we have anything? No, right? Yeah, we completed that. Okay. Let me see the questions. With the insert syntax, with the zero access, we'll add. That's something that I wanted you to experiment, right? I wanted you people to experiment with append function and insert function. 0 and 1. Keep changing and see what happens. You just replace. Here put insert, here put append and see what happens. Delete column, you're just mentioning the column, right? Axis. Axis is 1 means it's a column. Square brackets 1 means what? It is the position. See, always remember to look into the documentation. So if I hover my mouse here, it gives me this documentation. I click on that. So it gives me the syntax. It says delete from this array. ARR is array. OBG is basically the object or indicates the position. And then access is equals to none. Access is optional. The access along which the delete the sub array defined by object. So this is the object that you are defined at. What is that sub array that you are defining that you want to remove? If access is none, then object is applied to the flattened array. Flattened array means it's a row, right? 0. It basically treats access as 0 if nothing is given. Okay, so you basically have to try and experiment on insert and append. Insert elements into an array, append elements at the end of the array. So that's the difference. Insert and append. Insert can put your values in between somewhere. Append will put the values always at the end. Delete means you're deleting based on the index. And index will remain common whether it is rows or columns. That's basically, I'm talking about index starting from 0. Whether it is column or rows, index will always start with 0 in Python. Now, when we talk about Python programming, the 4 most important data types or data objects that you need to look at are lists, then we have something called as tuples, then we have something called as sets, then we have dictionaries. Right? Everything in Python revolves in these 4 objects. We have mutable properties, immutable properties that we'll discuss. Then we have indexed properties. Then we have duplication properties. Right? So these 4 different data objects that we are seeing, right? They have these features. Right? So which one has what features? We will discuss that in detail tomorrow, and what kind of functions we can apply on these 4 different objects. That's something that we will be learning. And in Python, 99% of the times we use lists. By default, we'll go with the lists. I would not say 99, but by default, we'll stick to lists. But in some cases, you will go with sets, you will go with tuples, sometimes you will go with the dictionaries based on those features that these objects have. All right. So that would be your next class, that is tomorrow. I'm going at super slow rate. Hope you're getting the gist of the things. Now, remember, it's a programming language. It is an ocean out there. I'm trying to give you the very basic right baby steps. I'm trying to make you take the baby steps. You start crawling, and then you have to eventually run. For that, you need to practice. Always remember, practice is the key. And experimentation is something that you will have to do when you're practicing. Try to break the system. That's how you learn. You're asking me a lot of questions, right? I would rather say stop asking, start doing that. You're saying that, can I do append for inserting a row? Sorry, a column. Why not? Try and see what happens. What is stopping you? Right? So start experimenting, guys. With that note, I would conclude for the day. And any questions, anyone? Dictionaries. Fourth one is dictionaries, Ravikant. If you want me to run here, Ibrahim, the problem is, Ibrahim, the multiple codes are there already shown to you, right? The codes are already there with you. It will be provided in your LMS. It will be given access. I've shared the codes. Probably by tonight or max by tomorrow, you will have the codes. Don't need to take any screenshots. For explanation, I'm using Spider because I can type line by line and execute. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to do that, Kumar. I'll try to. Yeah. Experiences. Yeah, Ibrahim. These are the default data structures that you will have to work. Yeah, similar, Melu. In Java also it will be similar. There were a few corrections, Ibrahim. As I said, I wanted to make sure those corrections are done, and yeah, I've shared already with the team. You should be able to get the access. In fact, I think I missed one or two positions. Not sure if I. Okay, I remember now. I did not make some corrections. Fine, no problem. We'll start using them. Practice, have some doubts. Yeah. No, Yashaswini, I do not take Tableau classes. I'm too occupied to get into that. Yeah, Anuj, you have assignments. Yeah. Sure. All right, guys. If you don't have any questions, you may want to drop off. People who may want to drop off, please drop off. Thank you so much, and